All right, I have something prepared to talk about the coronavirus and the church. So let me semi-read this to you and talk to you. On Thursday, March 12th, I attended an informational meeting recommended by our conference superintendent concerning the coronavirus as it relates to healthy church life, specifically in St. Joseph County. The panel of 3 local experts balanced the fear factor with the facts available to them at this time. Though there are many coronaviruses, the world is focusing on the present threat, the novel coronavirus. The actual virus is called SARS-CoV-12. But when this virus infects someone, it's referred to as COVID-19. So it's kind of like HIV is the virus, AIDS is the sickness. It's the same kind of terminology. At the time of the gathering, there was one known case in St. Joseph County. The best information about how to understand what we presently know can be found at cdc.gov. If you have questions, that's the most reliable source. That's the Center of Disease Control. The danger in coming into contact with this virus varies according to the age of the person, the medical condition, and the surface the germ is on. Some surfaces, the virus remains active 2 to 3 hours. For other surfaces, 2 to 3 days. So the transmission of the virus varies accordingly. The COVID-19 sickness seems to have begun in China. Through global travel, it has spread around the world. Every day, more population groups are threatened. Those who are young and healthy who become infected may not get very sick. However, they are likely to transmit the virus to vulnerable people who may get very ill and some even die. The elderly and those with chronic health conditions like lung disease or heart problems or diabetes, these are at the highest risk, and these suffer the most severe complications and symptoms. The reason many venues are canceling events is to reduce the risk of transfer, especially to those who are compromised with health needs already. The cancellation of public events also gives time for more research about the disease. Since there is no known way to treat the virus other than to treat the symptoms, which really are just like the flu: fever, cough, trouble breathing, diarrhea. If you have flu-like symptoms, the best approach is to telephone your doctor or health provider. If you do not have health issues, you may be asked to self-isolate. That means stay home, stay away from people, and don't go out in public for a period of time. If you have both symptoms and vulnerabilities which need special observation, and you call your health provider, they may have you telephone one of the 3 testing sites in St. Joseph County: Beacon Health, St. Joseph Health, and the South Bend Clinic. So your local doctor is not a testing site. If needed, a person may be hospitalized, but the healthcare facilities need to minimize the risk of transmission and remain available for non-virus related health conditions. Pray for discernment for us as a church, for businesses, for public gatherings, to minimize fear and misinformation, and to balance public safety with cultural and religious gatherings. Though we do not know if we'll be meeting again in the recent future, everything changes every day. When we are able to gather, we must be responsible to show respect for one another by taking proper precautions. So here are some things we can minimize the risks of gathering at church. Number one, if you're sick, if you have flu-like symptoms, please do stay at home. We don't want you to unintentionally infect others, even if it isn't the coronavirus, just with the flu or the common cold. If you're elderly and you're reluctant to attend, we give you permission. We understand if you choose to stay home. Our services may be viewed online at our website, www.lakevilleumc.org, or you can go to the YouTube channel and put in Lakeville United Methodist Church, Lakeville, Indiana. And it may take a day or two for our sermons to be posted, but nevertheless, Sherry works on that in the office, and you can still get a service. And there are other worship services that have already happened on there too. And we're providing sanitizer and wipes in various places throughout the building. We're wiping down the tops of the pews, doorknobs, countertops, all of that to be as germ-free as possible. And if you are using the church for a meeting or an event, please wipe down the areas that you've been using before you leave the building. And again, there are wipes and sanitizers different places. We also need to maintain personal space between you and your neighbor. Transmission happens through sneezing, coughing, spraying respiratory droplets. And the chances of being infected or infecting others is greater if you are closer to them physically. Thus, spread out. The ideal is 6 feet of space between you and your neighbor. Now, this doesn't change the commandment, love thy neighbor as thyself. It's just the way in which we love one another that has changed. So our personal passing of the peace we're not doing for a period of a few weeks at least. Our greetings are becoming more 60-ish. And by the way, Sherry found a new one, if you want to say, that's it. And you can curtsy, you can bow, you can be creative without hugging and that kind of thing. So we ask you to do that. And there's nothing wrong with levity. You know, yes, there's fear involved, but we don't need to cave into fear. We just need to take precautions. So anyhow, just realize that even fist bumping isn't smart, because we teach people to cough into their elbow, and then if you fist bump, elbow bump, yeah, you've just defeated the cause. So anyhow, the manner in which we practice communion will probably be different, at least in April. So we're still working on that. Amy and I had a conversation this morning. Our plan is still to do communion, but to do it in a way that will be as sanitary and as just to take appropriate precautions. Okay, now how can we best serve our community needs as a church during this time? This doesn't mean, yes, we're canceling things. This doesn't mean we cease to respond. Number one, we cooperate with the mandates of our local health officials. Number two, pray for triumph over this pandemic and for those around the globe who are most directly affected, whether health-wise or financially. And do not minimize our role as Christians in helping people to think about faith and future. The power of community outweighs the impact of social isolation if we stay connected. So find new and creative ways to show concerns for each other than personal visitation. Calling, texting, sending a card, maybe in order. For some of us, our technology skills are about to improve as we realize that we don't have to be at the same place at the same time to express sincere and legitimate concern. We're still the body of Christ, and we do need to stay connected even if we're not able to gather together for a few weeks. Now, we don't know that we won't gather together, but the bishop may come up with a recommendation for churches to pause for a few weeks. The negative financial impact of that we would ask you to think about online giving, sending a check in the mail. The needs of the church still go on, and our ability to respond to community needs are based on our faithfulness in our giving. But the negative financial impact will be more desperate for some families than others. Those who are already living on the margins of financial provision, this will be very, very difficult for them. Our food pantry may have increased traffic, and there's been an email sent out by the food bank, and we're part of that network. And so we will be having food pantry. It will be done a little differently with patrons not getting their own food, but it being handed to them, whatever. There are certain things that will happen differently. So the way we offer service may somewhat be different, but let's be generous and responsive, and then maintain a spirit of flexibility and humility. We're all trying to best discern what is fact, what is fiction, what is responsible, what is overreaction. So let's be gracious and nimble, as different churches and agencies will respond in different ways. If we are unable to meet as a worshiping community, again, consult our website. Check your emails or texts or Facebook. Even if we're not able to meet, I'm going to try to videotape sermons so that they, even if I'm preaching to no one, so that there will be something from your church that you can gain. And do remember to pray.